something came together as Neil Cantor spoke. Yeah, he talked about tipping point, narratives and levels. Yeah, and I see a lot of things coming together. But all of us use our organizing principles to interpret the world, and so do I. So I just want to offer how I heard you. So tipping point, Malcolm Gladwell talks about cascading effects. And if you want to start with economics, Paul Schiller wrote a very good book on narrative economics, but will not be complete. And I'll tell you my view about it. And levels are very important. Council and in many conversations I'm part of, they don't make a distinction about levels. Everything we discuss have different levels. A strategy for 5 to 10 years is different from handling an Indian discrimination case, yeah, but we sometimes go into different levels of conversation without knowing that we are in different levels of conversation. So Elliot Jacks wrote a very good paper on levels, yeah. And if you think about tipping points and narrative inquiry, it has a very cultural slant to it. And I thought that How Change Happens by Suee Chieh, not the one who wrote The Professions, but this one is about anthropological how change happens, which is very good. And I thought it was useful because it goes into uncertainty, which of course Martin is very strong on uncertainty. And in uncertainty, and now I got to take a much wider view because I'm Eastern, and we do see things more ecologically or synthesis, right? So if the West is yang in terms of structure, the other side is yin. If you talk about risk, the other side is uncertainty. Actuaries are good in analysis, but not necessarily in synthesis. Science is very elemental rather than holistic. Yeah, and we often go to tasks instead of talking about context. Yeah, so these are pairs of words, But it was also interesting that the way you did it, Neil, to deal with a systems problem, a holistic problem, is still very analytical. And the way Nick Spencer asked the question, where are the notes? Yeah, a Chinese thinker will not ask with those questions. No, I'm not saying they're right. They won't ask the question. And it's interesting that Sam Accord says that I like to deal with these kind of issues in a structured way. You see what I mean? So we bring our own subjectivity into it, and no one has done. So therefore, it becomes so the problem is not a first order problem. We've got to go to the second order. How are we going to harmonize our interpretation of it, right? So we come into economics. So I was very taken by not narrative economics. There's a pathway into it. But I think complexity economics, I was very taken by Eric Boenhecker's book, because I thought, I've always felt that the problem was not about economics or economic models. It's about human society, about how we organize our mindsets, how we organize our philosophy. And if you're interested, and actually this book was recommended by my good absent friend, Nico Espinal, who has his own way of dealing with things. But that book responds to two other books which are more Eastern orientated. If you want to, one is The Master and Emissary by Malgil Christ, which went back to Greek philosophy until the present day. Because the Greeks were very, and the Chinese are very convergent. So when they deal with problems of judgment, they talks about metis, which is a form of intelligence, and synesis is about joining the dots. And that is what you are trying to unpack in a room with all the people brainstorming. But that room can only be unpacked if you can create the right psychological space. Yeah, the psychological has to come with trust, being on the same page, and mutual concern. And that's very hard to achieve, you see, because once you can get a psychological stage, the breakthrough and the insight generation will come. The second book is about the Treatise of Efficacy. You can get it on the web, Treatise of Efficacy. So I find that And is what did Mervyn King recommended? He talks about narratives as a way of solving problem. Narratives, yeah. That's what he saw. What is why is about understanding what is going on, which is not about equations, you see. And this is extremely hard for us to go directly to the life and learning board. So it's about narratives. You can only go it sideways, yeah. And the Chinese will go it sideways. They will never confront the problem directly. They go it sideways. I think Martin knows what I'm talking about. It's about stories, right? So stories become so important. So if you are interested in this, I recommend the book, and Nico was quite, it's called Treatise of Efficacy by Francois Julian, who is a French sinologist who speaks Chinese very well. But so this thing, because the problem has become no longer analytical, it becomes systemic. So you cannot solve it in a systematic way because it's a collision and accumulation of non-linear systems, and it's cumulative and very disproportionate in effects, and it hurts people who are highly vulnerable. So climate change, COVID-19, the East-West breakdown are sources of uncertainty. They're sources of uncertainty, and our handling cannot be. I'm doing my pitch now. Our handling cannot rest on our quintessential values. It got rest on imagination, courage, and judgment.